All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I am here with my friend, Gabe Rivera. Folks, we made it. Episode 74. In this episode, the crew, as in me and Gabe, discusses what it means to be a friend. We talk about quality friendships, getting new friends, good versus bad friendships, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Muhammad Ali and C.S. Lewis. If you're new, thank you for joining us. Guys, don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Episode 73 is about pets. So if you like anything that has anything to do with anything that has to do with pets, it's actually a funny episode. You get to hear childhood memories that the crew discusses and actually shares. There's stories that I never even knew happened, and it was like my own family member, so it's totally awesome. And that's the way most of these episodes work. Yeah. We do have an itinerary. We follow fairly closely to it. But man, the stuff that we share in the Rotated Views podcast is, sometimes it's ideas and concepts that were never shared before with one another. And it's definitely interesting seeing people open up.
And yeah, it's definitely something that you get these stories because you don't necessarily bring these topics up in normal conversation.
Exactly. And so we're kind of like poking at certain things, whether it's a trigger point for somebody or just a random topic that they don't get to talk about on a regular basis. Yeah, admittedly so. Not all of us have jobs where it's very social. Yeah. I mean, although we now live a very social world and like to share things, but when it comes to, like actual stories and basically kind of mini interviews and allowing the discussion to really develop itself rather than a bunch of people yelling and cutting each other off and not really listening to what's being said at a party.
Yeah, exactly.
So we found that with over a year and a half of now recording, being a top ranked podcast, have successfully been driving people to our podcast, that there's something there. There's something real about it. There's something fun about it. There's something exciting. And really it's just a bunch of guys giving their true stories. And I think that's where it becomes, the raw entertainment comes. With that being said, don't forget to download, subscribe, and join us on this journey as we unfold, the mysteries of life, together in this most unique way that technology has allowed us to do. And I'm going on this kind of tangent / longer intro because the topic is friendship, right? So I kind of wanted to also make the statement that even though two of them are my brothers, one's my cousin, one's my good friend, it's everyone's friendship, not even just my relationship with them, their friendships have grown, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like Gabe and Manny have a tighter friendship, and Manny and Heck, and Manny and Goose and Gabe, just like everyone's kind of like connecting on a different level because we're getting to know each other more, and definitely. Where our thought process is and where we're coming from really, and why we approach life the way we do.
And sometimes we even because of this, we see each other maybe more frequently than we would have in the year and a half past prior.
Oh, definitely.
Prior to the year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a camaraderie here because somewhat forced because you have to meet up, right? But in the force, it's almost effortlessly. Yeah. Because this isn't a mandatory thing. The podcast isn't a mandatory thing. There's no you have to show up, as you guys can tell right now. It's just me and Gabe right now. Yeah. We told the crew to relax for 2 weeks, do your thing. We'll record this one and we'll take care of it. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like they want to come to this, and if they didn't want to come, they wouldn't show up. But they're showing up. They're enjoying the content. They're enjoying the material. It's very natural. But yeah, so going back on that, it's like the friendships that have. It's not necessarily. So the point I'm trying to make is we didn't produce friendships here. We made the bonds of those friendships stronger. Is what it is.
Exactly. We developed them further.
Exactly, and I think on a better, deeper level too.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, like I said, when you're meeting up with people and you're just talking to people at an event or a social event, party, whatever, you're kind of talking about, for the most part, not shallow topics, but nothing that goes too deep either.
Yeah, exactly. The term I would use was very surface level stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's just because it's just a time and a place for that stuff.
Exactly. You don't go that deep into those type of subject unless you start to create that kind of bond.
Yeah, and you also don't want it when it gets that deep, it gets too serious, and the point of the party is just to kind of everyone let loose and just enjoy themselves, really. So you don't really want to get into like crazy debates about Big Brother and religion, and it's like, dude, really, we're doing this right now?
And that's where the whole Debbie Downer term came from, and stuff, because like people like get too deep into like weird, crazy subjects, and like bring the whole level of the party down.
Isn't that funny that it's like a known law, unspoken law. It's like, you shouldn't like probably talk about certain things at a party because it's not there. I don't know what it is, but most times parties are celebrating something.
Yes, exactly.
So the fact that you're there wanting to talk about, topics that not necessarily are boring, it's just there's a seriousness to them that environment isn't the time or place
exactly.
for. Yeah, which isn't to take away though. Like if you think about it, it isn't to take away, because I've gotten in some fairly decent conversations, actually really good conversations that went beyond the surface, but not so deep where you're just like, dude, where I'm like looking around. And the times it has, I mean, we kind of walked away like, all right, maybe we talked about it too much. But the ones that are the best, where they just go a little right below the skin level.
Yes.
And you get you're hitting a little bit of meat there.
Yeah.
But that's it. You don't want to keep going, and it turns into like something else. And you guys sound like you're the beginning stages of a cult or something.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, exactly. Or even like, if you keep it kind of like you said, like you kind of slightly a little below like the depth of like a shallow conversation, but it's not getting like a heated conversation.
Yeah, and I think the opposite's true too. Having too shallow of a conversation is just kind of like, ugh.
Well, yeah,
because you can almost sense like the fakeness, like you're just talking to me just to talk to me,
and that's when you get to like the awkward silences. And
stuff like that. And then it's this period where both people are not listening because they're trying to avoid the white space.
Sure.
And they're trying to avoid that little quiet moment that might happen, and if that happens, it's awkward for everybody. So you just keep coming up with ideas or questions to ask,
just random
just out of random, and you really don't care. The problem with that is, you probably held this conversation for 5-10 minutes, but the other person knows what you're doing. Like we naturally know that. You don't have to study like the human mind and the nature of how humans interact with one another to know that's a naturally ingrained thing. It's kind of like it's an instinct. And people say like, off the bat, I just get a feeling from people like what kind of person they are. It's kind of one of those things. So the person's like, oh, how you doing? Oh, did you watch the sports? Did you watch it? And then it comes with like terrible laughs and just like, I get it. Some social events are kind of forced, and you have to kind of force a conversation. You might not be necessarily comfortable. It could be for work. It could be for, just a random meetup. Maybe you're just coming out of your shell in general.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're awkward. I'm not saying they're not awkward. But I would say it's like, if you feel like, dude, I'm just asking random questions.
Yeah. Well, especially like if, like you said, the case in point of like, if it's a work thing where usually at work, you're, for the most part, like you said, like earlier, I was like, oh, sometimes you don't have a very social work.
Yeah.
But if you are in an environment where you aren't in like the business mindset, and you can like kind of lay back, it's like, then you kind of like, then it gets a little weird of like, what should I talk to them? Because I'm not used to talking to them outside of the business aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, work's another animal because you have to keep it professional too.
Yes. Exactly.
So there's a lot of stuff that's off the table just off the bat, right? Also depends who you're talking to, because in work, as everyone knows, there's levels, right? There's rankings, absolutely. There's managers, there's supervisors, there's entry level, and everything else in between and above. So it's like, there's certain conversations you probably shouldn't have with certain people,
exactly,
right? And so when you get into that though, if you can just, I believe, I'm a new person coming into a company. I believe if I can naturally build on the friendship instead of forcing it because of my title, right, then I will get more effective team members to join me on a success path,
absolutely,
down the road. Am I expecting for everyone to jump on the bandwagon and be excited? Absolutely not. But there's also when you're interacting with human beings, you're interacting with a human being.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like they pick up on whether you're being fake, whether you're being who you're being just because of a title.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're like manager or whatever, there's
Yeah.
already a level of there's already barriers up because of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so you have to kind of, like you said, naturally break through that barrier to kind of, even if it is like basic friendship or whatever it is, or at least like a friendly mindset, whatever, to at least not have that constant barrier of like, oh, I know you're my boss, so I can't say anything. I can only do so much like towards you or whatever. Interact how you very certain ways.
Right. But yeah, and again, since we're talking about friendships, I believe that's what it is. For me to be an effective leader and to help my team grow, is building on those relationships.
Absolutely.
And taking out just like a relationship and making it more of a friendship.
Yeah.
Like that, I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you actually think about it, it's like, I know we're in here, and a lot of times people say the opposite things, but I feel like, who are you going to go more to bat for? Like someone who's just in a role,
yeah, exactly,
telling you what to do, or someone who feels more of a friend that, yeah, they might be in a higher position, but they come off, your friendship is definitely, like homegrown. It's more of a natural feel to it.
And you have more of a trust and respect for somebody you consider a friend as opposed to just, oh, that's my coworker, that's my boss, whatever. It's like you have more of a camaraderie that like you said, has a bigger bond, that has a weighted aspect to it, where you will, like you said, go to bat for them a lot more than you would than just, like you said, like a title.
Absolutely. Yeah, because then you feel like they understand you and you understand them.
Exactly.
Even if it's on that microscopic level, that the old school approach was never like that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, do you want to be feared or be loved?
Exactly.
It's one of those things. Like, I'm just naturally not that guy to walk around and try to put fear in people.
Yeah.
It's just not in me. Like, whether I try or not, it's just not in me. Now, do I have a presence? I would say yes, but it's different. Mine is coming from a certain way, from there's reasons behind it, not just walk around like a tough guy just because.
Yeah, because you can have that friendship, but you still have
there's
the respect that you're
Yes.
a boss still, because you have to know that work has to get done or whatever it
Yes.
is. But when you start getting walked over, the line becomes blurred in terms of your separation of positions or whatever it is.
Yeah, big time. And when things happen, everybody's watching, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're in a position, the number one, I always ask for advice from, people who are in my position or who are, have been in my position.
Absolutely.
And the number one thing is they always say is like, just remember everyone's watching.
Yeah.
And so another way to build on a friendship, right? And on a team, or whether it's your son, whether it's your wife, whether it's a good friend of yours, a way to build on that friendship is to go to war for them.
Yeah.
And so if they see that you're kind of busting your tail to make certain things happen, and they're part of, like, they're going to be the recipients of the reward.
Yeah.
They're going to look at you different just instantly.
Yes. Exactly.
There's a couple times like I already fought for the team and they saw me fight for the team. Not in a physical way, but in like making something happen. I told them it would happen and they said there's no way, and I made it happen. Now they're looking at me different already.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's just more, again, it's going with the natural approaches to how do you build a friendship. It's just
and
basic.
You prove that you're gonna do what you said.
Exactly.
And then it's gonna have them at least try to reciprocate the same effort in some form or another.
Exactly. So yeah, that's spot on. And you grow from there. So my whole theory is starting somewhere so little that it's almost to the point where it's unnoticeable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of make that little drop, and it's strategically on the execution of it. It's not strategic when it happens. What I mean is, so how I'm doing something is there's reason behind it. Mm-hmm. But when, I don't know when. It has to make itself naturally happen. So if I see a moment where it's like, someone were to drop something like, oh, you got Butterfingers, or say something like that, like just, again, trying to make somebody laugh. I you can't plan that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. So like when you don't know, but how? Yes, I know. Bam! As soon as you get the smile, you kind of go in, go out, kind of thing with it in the most natural way. Like if it's a more of an engaging thing, then you kind of you have the conversation.
Of course,
you're talking. And I also think it's just like with friendships and friends and all kinds of human relations, it's when you have a relationship with somebody, friendship, whatever it is, when you guys beat over the same topic, that's when it's kind of like it goes away. Like the bond and the tightness kind of goes away. So basically it's like having like, like that toxic relationship.
Yes.
As we had talked about in the past, it's, if you feel like they're walking on eggshells every time they talk to you, then that's not good. Something got to change or something got to give. Now, if you feel like every time you hang out with somebody, it's because you think that they want something from you every time, then
that's unhealthy.
And that's totally unhealthy. Then now the balance is losing itself.
Yeah, because then you start to resent
them. Yeah,
you start to resent the relationship of that, because then you don't look forward to actually seeing them, because you always know there's some ulterior motive between y'all meeting up, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then if you haven't yet built that rapport, oh wait, but in the past I see him, he probably stressed out about some other stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's out of character, that's one thing.
Yes. But if
you're constantly like, instilling fear in someone, and that's all you do. I just think it's again, it's unhealthy, and it's just awkwardly uncomfortable for everyone involved. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why would you continually be like that as a person who's that? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they probably, clearly you get something out of it, but then there's something inside of you that isn't worked out yet. There's definitely a kink there that needs to get ironed out, because there's a reason why you're that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, but I mean, and we always talk about like the laws of attraction and stuff, but like what. I guess that works in reverse too, because like people who are attracted, the good positives about you can be detracted, I guess, of the negativity of that too. So it's like you have like the reverse effect of happening, because people aren't gonna want to be around you. So then that, I guess, that feeds into the whole negativity attitude and all stuff too, because you don't understand why people are refraining from you, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
that's scary. Because that's true. We all have that, right? We all have this one probably thing that we do, or annoying, whether it's good or bad, that we don't even know we're doing.
Exactly.
How scary is that, dude?
And that's the funny thing too. Like, I mean, and that goes along with, friendships like that. You push, for most people, if you're super close, you tell each other like exactly what the hell, what you think about them, type stuff.
All right. That is a great point. Go ahead.
But I see something that's like, if you don't have that high level of I guess that bond or whatever, or that ability to just be open, just say whatever you can to them, then you don't say that, and then it just is a continual loop of the whole cycle of that attitude, if that makes any sense what I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge in relationships with like your significant other.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff. One thing I learned early on is just say what you're feeling. Yeah, there's certain things that you, like the lightweight stuff, you should refrain from saying.
Sure.
But like if something like really bothering you, like, dude, that's not good. There's a reason why you feel that, emotionally attached to whatever it is that's going on mentally. And I feel like if you think a friendship is always going to be, like rainbows and flowers and stuff, then to me, that's not a real friendship. That's an acquaintance. It's just somebody you know. And it's more of a cordial thing. And I would say that gears more towards like the work atmosphere. And even in work, it's still not like that. But it would have to be like, that's more of an acquaintance thing. There's no way you get away in life with not kind of bumping heads with people.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We all have different...
Even people you are super close to don't agree on everything 100% of the time. So of course there's going to be some kind of disagreement in some form or another.
Absolutely.
But it's the point that you can have that disagreement, but still have a close bond at the same time too. It's not a detractor of just going to cause like a rift in your friendship just because of over something that you may have had an argument, whatever it is. You can get past it and keep on going. It's like, it's not the end of the world.
It's just the understanding and the respect really of each other's opinions. But I am a huge like huge on, if you're a true friend, then you like talk about some things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially if it's messing up the relationship and you're like, dude, you got to knock this off, or I don't know what's going on, or that's not good for you. She's not good for you. He's not good for you. Like, you're looking out for that individual as well. Absolutely. To me, that's a friend. And I'm not talking about a brother or a cousin or another. I'm talking about a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be a brother or a cousin, but I'm talking about a true friend is going to tell you what is good for you, not necessarily what you want to hear.
Exactly.
Because what we want to hear all the time, we lie to ourselves day in and day out.
Oh,
we make things up. That's where bad habits form, and being unhappy with ourselves and unsatisfied and never being fulfilled. That all comes from all the little dumb stuff we tell ourselves all day and every day. Yeah. Do you need another physical human being also blowing, smoke, exactly. Up your path? No, you don't need that. You don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want a yes man just telling you, everything you agree with.
Right. It's like, I don't want a team of people who's just like agreeing with everything I say. I'm not saying I want to argue with people, but what I'm saying is, are we growing? Because part of growing it's like the whole old, saying with muscles, like your muscles tearing and then you replenishing them with the proper nutrients and vitamins, and then, expanding and getting larger and getting bigger. That's what? Growth.
Yes.
There's a soreness that comes with that growth.
Yeah.
There's a pain that comes with the, it's like no pain, no gain kind of thing, right? That old school, like, it always reminds me of like a 1990s like bodybuilder or world's strongest man. No pain, no gain.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on that same ideology that, we're gonna bump heads, or same thing with like your relationship with your spouse, or like me and my wife. Clearly, we don't agree on everything.
Sure.
But when we work it out, that's being real. Like that's love.
And that's what it's disagreement, but also compromise.
Yes.
And that's any friendship. That's any relationship in general.
It doesn't necessarily have to be compromised though. Like. So,
or like always the agree to disagree type of situation.
Yeah, or you never even thought about that perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
That might have not crossed your mind. Remember the thing that we were talking about earlier? Like, you might be doing something you don't even know you're doing.
Yeah.
It could be one of those things. Maybe what they just said is like, yeah, you know what? It's, and that's the point. It's they're bringing the best out of you. That's where it all boils down. A true friend, true spouse, like that's, actually loves you. They're going to bring the best out of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to challenge you. And what's in challenges, right? There's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be always, again, candy canes and dandelions or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be brutal at times. It's going to be ugly at times. But that's a friendship. Again, going back to saying, everything has to, work out perfect. And, it's only beneficiary to one person.
Yeah. That
lopsided friendship is going straight to hell, or if you're living in it, guess where you're living. That's what that friendship is. I mean, it's just not good.
Yeah.
And friendships are there to help you grow, as I mentioned earlier, but also help you help other people grow. Yeah. So like, friendships are funny because I can have like a friendship with somebody with two separate people, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, two separate people. And my friendship with that person is totally different than my friendship with the other person.
Yeah.
Right? And then those two people might not even know anybody, know each other. Yeah. Really. They just kind of like, oh yeah, I know you're Jim's friend. But I don't really like know you. Like, I'm not your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you by association, not really because we hang out and go grab, dinner or whatever.
Exactly. You always have that tangential like knowledge of each other for the most part, like your friends. But yeah, you don't have that deep thing. Like you said, there's different relationships even between people amongst the same group of friends.
Yes. Oh, big time. That's huge, actually.
But that's even with like family and stuff too. You have different relationships, I'm sure, with different your brothers too, based on just different commonalities and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I mean, just with age group alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I have cousins who I call my friend because they're really great people. But when our conversations or when we hang out, it's totally different than, I would say, a friend who's my age and been through some things with me along the way. It's different. It's just the bonds are different. One night may not necessarily be stronger than the other. you're communicating just differently. It's just
Exactly.
a different way. It's cool though, because the younger people are bringing out something that the older people aren't bringing out, and the older people are clearly bringing out something that the younger people aren't even maybe aware of even. So it's challenging yourself to really look at your friendships to say, is this actually developing me or destroying me?
Yeah.
And am I helping develop, or am I helping destroy? Because a lot of times we have to be selfish, right? In our own things, we have to take care of you first. If you can't take care of you, you're not going to be much of a help to other people.
Absolutely.
Because eventually you will be gone.
Yeah.
And that's not very helpful either.
Exactly.
But it's kind of like you want to leave people with this just thought that was like, dang, when I'm around that guy or when I'm around that girl, there's just some, I feel better.
Yeah,
There's just something about that person. They have this aura that wherever they go, it's like infectious. Everyone's either smiling or everyone's having a good old time. That's what you want. That means you're depositing these good emotions and feelings into people and lives, and you're truly affecting people that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where the law of attraction and all stuff comes into play too. It's like, if you're a constant source of positivity, of course people want to be around you. And, the negative, people don't want to be around you. For that type of aspect too. So yeah, if you're always a constant source of positivity, of course you're going to attract a lot more people, and that may be good or bad too, because people might be willing to try to take advantage of that if depending on what type of person you are, take advantage of your positivity or your kindness and all that stuff too.
Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it goes both ways. You got to protect other people. You also got to protect yourself. This whole thing goes back to what I was just saying. Taking care of yourself. Yeah. Understanding who you are.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're trying to figure out and break down other people, and we don't even know we haven't even figured ourselves out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it definitely goes back into, you definitely want to be giving as well as taking, which is the most basic concept in a friendship. There's a give and take.
But it should be mutual.
It should be mutual, yes.
There shouldn't be like you said before, it shouldn't be a one-sided relationship.
Exactly.
Because then, it's completely uneven. And then, one person's being drained of all their, whatever kindness or whatever it is being given out. And
exactly.
So it's, that leads back into like toxic and unhealthy relationships and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So, if you're new to this podcast, we have you would not know what's going on right now, but if you've heard one of our podcasts before, you realize that we just got right into it, right?
Yeah.
It was just
I didn't realize we just got right into it, but
we normally like to define a word from dictionary.com, but today we just kind of went off on
I think that was a 30-minute definition.
That was one definition. 5 more to go. No, all jokes aside, the topic is friendship. So before we get any further, we would like to define the term friend, and they define it as a person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection. Now, the descriptions and definitions, I should say, at dictionary.com, it goes a little bit further than that. You can go look it up yourself.
Yeah, there was like several.
But it was a basic. I just try to grab the most basic, understandable one. And to be honest with you, not all of them even make sense to me.
Yeah.
But they get like start describing what a friendship means in politics. So I mean, there's all kinds of whatever you're looking for, and that just kind of like ties into the conversation that we're having, is where you have different kinds of friendships.
Yeah, based on different areas, different whatever it is, different parts of your life that aren't necessarily interconnected.
Yeah, I mean, even me, like I just started to think about it as like my son's like t-ball coach.
Yeah,
and we've built friendships with the other parents and my son with their children, and we kind of like connect with, on social media with one another and kind of stay attuned what's going on with. It's one of those things. It's like because we were open to try something new. I was never a coach before. My son never played t-ball before. None of that. Mm-hmm. We developed relationships that would have never existed hadn't it been for trying something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a little secret to growth in that example that lies true in life in general.
Yeah, because even like I think we talked one of the times before, it was like joining clubs and stuff like that too. It was like different Or you were talking about you had joined something, I forget, maybe in college or something, whatever it was, or in high school, I forget what it was. But it was like that, like something you never would have done before, but then you had a random experience with somebody, or just like created a random bond that you never would have met otherwise if you didn't actually join that club or join the group, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like at Temple, it was like intramural sports. And it was a flag football, and I was like in the back of my mind, like, yeah, I would like to play, but I'm like, it's a bunch of people we don't really know. We just got here, and this thing's already started. And there's already so many moving parts in my mind.
Yeah.
At that time, that I was just overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. Like, no, I'm here with my cousin Maine. We don't need, I know we're gonna make a couple friends along the way, but I feel like we're forcing it.
Yeah.
That was like my thing. I think we're forcing, to have friends or whatever, and. We just did it anyway. Like, whatever. If this isn't what I thought it was, no one's known me from anywhere before, so it's not like I'm losing anything.
Yeah.
Right. So I basically went in with you have nothing to lose kind of mentality.
Yeah, true.
And I did it, and here we are, like a bond that's still, that goes even just today. We graduated over 10 years ago, right? Yeah. And from Temple University, and we still have, we go to each other's. Hang out with each other, go to each other's weddings. We do the same Temple football game every year. Now, some of these friendships, number one, would have never happened if it wasn't for Temple, obviously, brought us in, but also would have never gotten as close as they gotten if it wasn't us having open minds.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we literally all came from different backgrounds. I mean, if we couldn't be more opposite.
And obviously, what the baseline of that was the sport, whatever it was, the sport that you went to. So at least it created at least something common that you at least, even if you had nothing else to talk about, you at least talked about that.
Yeah, well, no, that was the like kind of like the glue that developed the relationship. Okay. So the force thing was we all dormed on the same floor, okay. So we're kind of put together, but the development of those friendships was hanging out, playing intramural sports with one another, because there's other guys that were on that floor that we made no connection with. Like, I mean, again, we're cordial and stuff like that, but it wasn't like nothing went in, anything further. Like, I think even after freshman year, we've never even seen him again.
Okay.
Kind of thing. And so the sports, it was kind of like, let's build this relationship, because we would have fun, like in the dorm rooms, like, everyone would go out to lunch together and hang out. Someone was working out together, and then we did the intramural sports. It built that bond. That's what it was. And then all of a sudden it was just like this natural, like I said, like team that got built.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until, like I said, it's 15 years of a friendship going on. And again, it would have never happened for a bunch of reasons.
Sure.
But it would have never gotten to that level if it wasn't, for us being open to something new.
Exactly. And even like, obviously on a similar level of me and you, it was like we kind of like tangentially working together.
Gabe pitching a pyramid scheme to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to,
But anyway, I made a ton of friends doing even that.
Yeah.
And me and you, that's kind of how you were saying, that's how we got connected.
And it was like, obviously initially it was because of like, obviously going to the meetings, stuff like that too. Kind of helped that, but it was like us, the drive, the rise in the car, going to there and stuff like that was the more personal stuff that we actually got together on, as opposed to just being about the meeting and stuff like that, or the business we were trying to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, the car rides, man, we were traveling all up down the tri-state area from, Washington all the way through New York.
Yeah.
And even west. So it was like we had a lot of car time. So there was a lot of talk, a lot of discussions about life, dream building, relationships, like income earning ideas and all this stuff that we built. And that I wouldn't trade that for anything. Because it taught me more about myself than anyone else, really. Yeah. I learned to understand other people and respect everyone's background and for people for who they are, and meet them at their needs, instead of forcing all my ideologies and really gnarly stuff I wanted to talk about in my mind. Yeah. And really, not bore people or basically vomit my knowledge or whatever, my experiences on them, which is, there's nothing more obnoxious and worse than that.
Yeah, oh,
and
yeah,
that's who I was.
Well, I guess that reeled that back in.
Yeah, I think it's weird because you go through this thing where you're over, like you get built up so much, and your confidence gets built up because you're reading personal development books.
Sure.
You're really sharpening your skills. You're really talking you're really making your way to become a much sharper version of yourself, and you're just polished. You get to a point where you know how to talk the talk, you walk the walk,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then there comes a point where you're still reading these books, and and then there's this level of confidence that kind of goes, it's almost like that young ambitious, like,
Oh, sure.
You feel like you could take on the world kind of mentality, and you get life will humble you for sure, and the business did, and life in general did, but it was neat because then it brought me back down to where I should be.
Yeah.
It gauged me. Really, it was like I was revving the RPMs way too much versus not even putting hitting the gas pedal.
Sure.
So you got to find that perfect in between, and that's what it was. It was kind of like I was so positive, and I'm not even kidding. I was so positive, I was making other people negative.
Yeah.
That's how
Exactly.
I was so over the top that I would literally. I remember I told my one friend that I didn't want to hear anything negative they had to say. Because I didn't want to be around negativity, and I conceptually, and the ideology, it's funny and childish at the same time, because it's like that sounds like a little kid would say that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's basically where I was. I was trying to be so positive that it went so above and beyond.
But on that same tone, it's like that, especially in that atmosphere of that type of I'm not trying to be critical of that, like, business or anything, but you're kind of in an echo chamber of, like, positivity everywhere, that you get so wrapped up in that you don't realize the outside world,
Yeah.
you have to normalize for the rest of it. It's like, yeah. So and that's what you felt like you couldn't be negative in any sort, form or another.
That's what I'm saying. So it was unnatural.
Yes.
And it was like this. That's what I'm saying. So you got to a point where it's like, okay, you're probably a little negative. Maybe you had a little, your negative self-talk was kind of bringing you down. You're in several bad relationships. The thing with the business was it took you out of, negative relationships, but it also put you in this weird bubble that everything was happy and everything was, and the idea is sound. But if you really drink the juice, and you're really into it, that you got to be careful, because then you're going to go on the other end. And I ruined relationships. I literally ruined relationships for being so positive because I wasn't listening.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to listen.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be positive.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
care about how bad your day was. Oh, don't tell me that. That's not negative entering my ears. Like, that's how crazy I was with it. I mean, I just wanted to be positive, dude. From the second I got up to the second I went to bed, I had to be positive, had to be positive. And I did it for a year straight. Thank God it happened the year that it happened.
Yeah.
Because it was my senior year, and it was my most
sure.
stressful year at Temple University. And I got my degree. I hit my goals. I hit my career goals, all that stuff. But I quickly realized, like, oh, whoa. You got to, you're way over the top. I was like legit messing up relationships. I mean, I got them all back, the ones that I needed in my life.
The ones
and
that
I still
I guess,
need.
The ones that would have lasted anyway.
Yeah. I repaired them, or the best that I could anyway.
Yeah,
By all right, I'm sorry. I think I just took something to a whole other level.
Yeah.
But if you were around me, you were gonna smile. You were gonna be positive. You were gonna be, and it was true. And you were like, yeah, I want to smile, but it's a sad time in my life, right?
Yeah.
It's something happened in the family. You're positive, but the problem with that is you're not listening. You're not feeling. You're not being a friend. You're being so selfish that it's taking away. And I'm not going to go to you because sometimes people just want to complain just to get it out. It's like they don't need to feel that relief. And here they're trying to get it out, and I'm the normal go-to person. And all of a sudden I'm acting fresh. Yeah. I'm like, I'm acting super different. It's hilarious to talk about now, but it's good. I needed that though. I needed to go too much to then come back down. Yeah. And I'm glad it happened when it happened.
Like I said, a lot of stuff. There's humbling periods of all that stuff, and what the biggest thing too is you take learning lessons for everything is what it is too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to be the best student I can be, And part of being a student is listening in itself.
Exactly.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, how can I be a good friend? How can I, build on these relationships and quote, build an empire? We're going to build an empire. That's what I used to say. And how am I doing that when I can't even listen to 2 minutes of them, trying to, de-stress and like tell you about a situation.
Or just express themselves.
Yeah. And then, well, what if they want your opinion on it? And you're just kind of like, oh, dude, you better talk to somebody. Dude, I literally told someone they need to talk to somebody else about it because I don't want to be around negativity. And I said it. There's not in the best part of the thing is I says it is not in a negative way, which is like, dude, it's so laughable, right? Like that is such a hilarious thing. Like, what in the world, dude? I was that like on the juice.
Yeah,
like I was so excited about everything, and everything was positive, which is great. And people say like your attitude is everything. And I think it's a large percentage it is. But at the same time, you're a human being. It's literally impossible to be that way. So now your authenticity is just ruined. Like you're like, you're not being real. Like that's not real. We are here experiencing this. Real bad things happen here. Absolutely. You can't always be positive, dude. It doesn't work in a real life. If you're a real person, you would accept those negative things and then maybe turn them into something positive. Absolutely. Yes. It's 10% of what happens to you and 90% of, what you do with it. I think it's a C.S. Lewis quote too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But too much, and like you said, trying to even if it's pretending to be positive,
it was
all
a
the
fake
time,
it till you make it thing,
and you just become a caricature. You're like you're not a real person, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like it's too like it's literally a caricature because like it's over the top of so extra.
Yeah, and what made me realize it was not even me. It was. I started getting bothered by other people in the business that were doing it. I'm like, dude, this guy's so cheesy because he's so over the top. And then realized I was doing the same thing. And that's probably how not during that. I felt the gauge enough to not be that way with other people who are in that business.
Yeah.
But I felt in my mind, it was like God telling me, like, well, this is what you look and sound like to your friends before this.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, dude, it's cheesy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and who cares? I don't care if it's cheesy. I don't care if, it came off and I was over the top and whatever. I don't care. I needed to go through that experience.
Sure. Absolutely.
And then you compare it to a lot of stuff too, right? I mean, do you want me to be the friend that's so positive that it's kind of annoying, or the person that's so negative that's literally detrimental to your health?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you got to pick your battles here. You know what I'm saying?
Because then being constantly always over the top positive is not relatable
at all.
It's like you said, it turns your friends and family off. It's like it doesn't make any sense. So like you said, that's not how a human being actually acts. So it's like, so then people don't want to come to you because of that reason.
Exactly.
And that was my own issue. Like I deal with some of that stuff too. And it's like because of something like that, it was like then you feel like you can't express certain things just because they're gonna say, oh yeah, everything will be okay. It's like even if you do listen, quote unquote, you feel like there's no actual real response, if that makes any sense.
But I can't take away from all the stuff that gave me true value, in a sense where me as a person completely changed for the better.
Sure.
So obviously, there's that that yin and yang there for sure. But I'm not so sure if it was even balanced.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, you found balance is the point.
Exactly.
Because that's what it was. And going back to your point, it was like you had to experience it to go to the extreme to find the middle ground.
Exactly. Yeah, and then that was just me. And so it was just this artificial culture that was developed. If you're able to grab the good things out of it, like I have, I mean, the benefits are they're gonna last a lifetime.
Sure,
they've lasted me this long already.
Yeah.
12
years later, whatever it is.
Exactly.
10 years, 11 years.
11 years later, and I'm still using concepts. I'm still reading books. I'm still being positive. I'm still, but it's to my gauge level. It's to where I'm comfortable with, because sometimes, and again, there goes the forced friendship thing.
Yeah.
I'm more of like, I want it to naturally develop itself and it not be forced.
Because I mean, even with that too, like yeah, exactly. But sometimes like school and work and stuff, you have those friendships at a convenience is essentially what it is, that may or may not develop into something more. And that's where like, yeah, we have childhood friendships, you know, from school and stuff like that too. And you have those commonalities that's where you grow up because you grew up together essentially.
Right.
And, but yeah, but it's like that was like, but those happen naturally because you're just around each other. So you find, you start to get to talk. And that's what like you were talking about earlier was like, as a manager, you develop that stuff naturally just because being around each other, you might have like a random conversation, whatever, that you may not have brought up before. So it's like, but when it's artificially from the get-go, it's a different dynamic in terms of how your relationship develops.
Exactly. So we kind of talked about quality friendships, right? As far as the give and take.
Yes.
And the good versus bad, where we're talking about, you know, toxic friendships, where it's just really, it still goes back to the give and take, or something's still taken, absolutely. Or somebody's
which
really,
is the unbalanced.
Yeah. Or someone's like super negative, and like, whoa, like levels of toxicity is like through the roof. What about getting new friends? As for new friends, there's a lot of situations life throws at you, right? Even going back to like doing new sports or trying a new you know, getting in clubs and getting a new job, you're going to interact with new different people.
Absolutely.
Now, friends per se is different from than a teammate or a coworker, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
So you can, you know, all coexist, but when it comes to like extracting an actual friend out of that, again, I still lean towards if it happened naturally. So like, because there's people, we all have the same jobs, same, you know, we're doing the same exact things, but I lean towards one person more than the other because our personalities kind of work a little bit better. We kind of understand each other a little bit better. All of a sudden now we start talking, we're sharing photos of our families. And it was like, it's so, it was natural. Again, it was just easier.
And yeah, making new friends, that's over time.
Right.
It's not like, yeah, oh, I meet you, you're my brand new friend. Yeah, you can say that, but you just got acquainted with somebody. That's what you may have had a new acquaintance, whatever. That's like saying, oh, you're my Facebook friend. It's like, yeah, you're my friend, but I don't know you like that.
Right.
But actual having a new friend, that happens over time.
Right.
Because yeah, even like me, like we and you, it was more like a business relationship initially.
Exactly. And
then it developed as obviously I met your family, as you know, like hung out. We hung out more outside of just doing the business stuff. It developed into obviously something a lot more.
Right. Yeah. But that's what you got put into like this, like almost like petri dish of it's just like a testing environment almost, and just you have to work with one another, right? Like our thing was like a job. Yeah, so like we had to interact with each other.
It was actually a dual weird relationship because we did like not initially, but it was like you were essentially a coworker-ish type thing,
right?
Along with then we started doing the business stuff, whatever, after the fact,
right? But I guess what I'm trying to say is there was other people who also had the same job as me.
Sure.
That interacted with you. Yes. What I'm trying to say. But we ended up developing a strong friendship.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like, we're thrown into this petri dish, but the connections might not be strong enough to make something bigger.
Absolutely. Yeah, because obviously, there were several people in the same situation. So
literally.
I see what you mean. Yes. Exactly.
So I think, you know, new friends comes from, putting yourself in, you know, whether life throws it to you naturally, like obviously if you get a new job, you're going to interact with new people.
You have no choice, exactly.
Right. Or whether it's something you chose, like you chose to do, you know, like play softball in the summer, play basketball, or join a car club, or, you know, have a hobby like going mudding, or all those kinds of things. Naturally, you're going to start talking to people.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, the more stuff that I, you know, am open-minded to and doing some like little research, and I'm starting to pick up on, you know, I find things that I can have a conversation with someone. Perfect example is we had a printer repair person come out to the on-site, and he fixed the computer and he left. When I came back, I was at a meeting, I came back, and, you know, one of the team members comes up and says, like, you know, the repair guy left his phone here, cell phone. I'm like, oh, all right. So I grabbed it. Now, meanwhile, I've been into me and James and my wife, and, you know, getting into kind of like the off-roading stuff. So we've been, you know, going to, you know, mudding events. You know, we finally got a dirt bike. We're gonna get a quad. Just the whole like scene. We watch videos basically every night on, like, we are loving it. And one of the thing is an AMA. It's like the American Motocross Association or whatever.
Okay.
So this guy had an AMA sticker on his cell phone case.
Oh, okay.
And so boom, there's a whole conversation.
Yes.
From that conversation went for, he told me about another place I should check out to, you know, watch events and that I never even heard of. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I think, yes, I was at the right time. Yes, that was kind of like a forced, what's it called? But the connection that I made with this person was a natural one because
Sure.
I was already looking into that stuff, and he just so happened to also be involved.
Yeah, exactly. Because and you never know what, but you always assume certain things about people
And
just based on looks and everything.
Exactly, because if you saw this guy, you wouldn't have thought that. But when he came back, what do you think I said? Here's your cell phone. I said, "Are you into motocross?" And our conversation, he's like, yeah. How do you know? And I'm like, and I flipped his phone around and we both just started laughing. I'm like, I'm just getting involved. But I thought it was funny because literally I was trying to get tickets or see what membership fees were for this, you know, organization or whatnot. But again, that was like a natural thing. I had to give him his cell phone back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also didn't have to have that conversation.
Exactly.
But I went about it the most natural way. I found a commonality between us and I just went with it.
Yeah. And you never know. I mean, that could have been, it could become nothing after that, or it could have been like, oh,
yeah.
you know, we're having tickets wherever you want to come out to, like, you want to join us with, like, for a show, whatever it's called, the next weekend or something like that.
Yeah, that wasn't forced. Like I said, how?
Exactly.
Yes. When? How could I have planned this guy leaving his cell phone? You know what I'm saying? Like, no. It's
happenstance,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, but when you're open to new ideas, new concepts, again, friendships have been created. I don't know what's going to come from of that, but I'm just saying, like, that's a perfect example of, you know,
absolutely,
just being open-minded and just new to stuff. And then even sparking, you know, having the, you know, the gusto to even start that conversation.
Exactly.
Some people,
because you could notice it and just not say anything at all.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I got you, kind of thing. Like, I heard your cell phone, and just kind of walked away.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy had like a 20-minute conversation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And he left because he felt bad.
Yeah,
because that was like his work phone, so he was missing calls. And he didn't realize it till he's like, I guess, a little ways down. Yeah, so it took him like 20 minutes, a half hour to get back.
Oh, okay.
Realizing,
so he just had to realize it was gone, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because
no way to get a hold
his
of
phone
him.
wasn't ringing. Yeah, so he's probably like going to the next job site. Like, in his mind, he already probably had his route ready to go.
Yeah.
So he's probably just driving there. But it was a lot of like business emails coming through and business phone calls. You could see them popping up. So I'm like, oh man, this guy really needs his phone.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. But yeah, so that, I mean, so new friends, it's a fun thing. It's you know, I would say go out there, have fun with it. You never know where it's gonna go.
Sure, absolutely.
Be safe, obviously, but you know, be open.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Episode 74, Friendship. We like to wrap our episodes up with quotes, and today's quotes we have one by Muhammad Ali and one by C.S. Lewis. And today we're going to have Gabe, my friend, read these two quotes.
All right, the first one by Muhammad Ali. It says, friendship is the hardest thing in the world to explain. It's not something you learn in school, but if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you haven't learned anything.
Wow.
And the second one by C.S. Lewis is, friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, what, you two? I thought I was the only one.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so there you have it, folks. Episode 74, Friendship. In this episode, the crew discusses what it means to be a friend. We talk about quality friendships, getting new friends, good versus bad friendships, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Muhammad Ali and C.S. Lewis. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.